move. I must admit. I move. I must admit. I move. I must admit. I move. I must admit. Girls moving and shaking their booty, bro. What's happening? Spit flame on the super train. What's happening? I rock on the planet's out. What's happening? I'm Michael Jackson at Janet's house. What's happening? Wings. What's happening?
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you so much for having us today. So, by a show of hands, how many of you are tired of doing the same bass touch-up on all your guests all day long, and you want to try to find something different to incorporate into that? Beautiful. Thank you for that.
So, by another show of hands, how many of you would love to know a new way to get a balayage effect with minimal effort? Oh yeah. Awesome. Can you guys hear me okay? Not very well. Not very well? Let me adjust this. Is that better? Better? Okay, cool. So thank you guys so much for coming out today and spending your Sunday with us. Natalie and I are super excited to be here today. We have really cool things in store for you. We're going to be going over some different ways to balayage and also some cool ways to do some color melting and blurring. So with that being said, I wanted to take a minute to introduce to you guys my good friend and stage partner, Miss Natalie Alana from Fort Worth, Texas. She is an amazing hairstylist and artist, and she has been trained with and alongside some of the top people in the world for our industry. So give it up for her one more time.
Thank you. Let's give it up for my friend and stage partner, Miss Lacey Broocke. Lacey comes all the way from Houston, Texas. She works behind the chair, just like all of you do, day in and day out. She has trained with a lot of phenomenal artists, been to New York City. She's a colorist, she's a finisher. She's phenomenal. So give it up for Lacey Broocke.
So the first look that I'm going to be sharing with you guys today is called Heads and Tails. And if you look over here to the mannequins that are pre-done, we're going to be looking at this one in the center. And as you can see, it looks like a very natural balayage. So that's the finished product of what we're going to be doing. And if you look here on the mannequin that I have pre-sectioned out, you're going to see some ponytails. So this look was done by using all ponytails, and we use over direction and shape, size, and width to create different softness and movement within the shape. So with that being said, you'll notice on each side, I'm going to go behind each ear and create an arced section. And I'll show you guys this side. This side has a larger ponytail. And the reason for that is because she parts her hair on the side. So I'm bringing both of these ponytails in to the center to create that money piece, right? Hands up if y'all know what I'm talking about with the money piece. Yes, we need that money piece. Everybody wants the money piece right now. So with that being said, this next section, as you can see, it's kind of a huge triangle, and all the ponytail is in the high point of the head. And it creates a nice V section right here in the center, creating depth and dark right next to that light.
You gotta have darkness to see the light. Thanks, Lady Gaga.
Right? Yeah. Yes, you do. So we have to have a contrast in our color to be able to see that light or to make that light piece pop. So, and in the back, we have 2 ponytail sections in the nape. And the reason for this is, how many times do you guys go to take a selfie? And what's the first thing we do with our hair? You know what I'm talking about? Yeah, so we place these ponytails here on the very edge of that rectangular section. So we have more lightness that comes around the face. So the depth is back here in the center where we can't see it. So that's where all the dark is. If you're with me, say yes. Yes. Okay, cool. So I'm gonna get gloved up and we're gonna get started on this technique.
Beautiful. So where are you starting first, Lacey, and why is that important?
So, thanks for that, Natalie. So I'm going to start off in the front first. And the reason for that is because with balayage, where do we want the hair lighter? In the front, right? So we want it to look lighter in the front. So we're going to start in the front. So, and I'm going to start on her left side. I had to think about where I'm standing. I'm going to start out on her left side. And I'm going to take my foil on my foil board and just go ahead and get that ready. Next, I'm going to subsection the mannequin. So I don't want super thick sections because I want to make sure that the ends are saturated. So I'm going to just take a small section and flip back the rest of that ponytail and get it out of your way. So if I spread this section out, if I spread it out, it's thin enough to kind of see through, but not like super thin where like you have to worry about it taking forever. So I'm going to start using my board and go up to you can even hold it up on that ponytail holder. Spread that hair out a little bit. I'm going to turn her just slightly so you guys can see. So next I'm going to use my lightener and I'm going to start saturating the ends fully. And this is key, you guys. You want to make sure that you really spread that hair apart because we want full saturation on the ends. I'm going to move my hand down. When I get to the very end, I don't want to twirl those, so I'm just going to gently lift up those ends and color those back up. Now, you can decide how far down or how close up to the scalp you want it. Because it's around the face, I'm going to go a little bit further up, but I don't want full saturation when I get up here close to my ponytail. So I'm going to make sure that I fully saturate that part. And then I'm going to take my trusty Redken blur brush. Give me a what if you guys use these in the salon yet.
What?
If you haven't tried it, you guys got to try it. It's the best thing ever. It's the Redken blur brush. And it's made to blur or to soften lines. And it creates a really nice soft finish. So I'm going to take my area that's really saturated and I'm just going to blur it up into the top part of the ponytail. And you can kind of see that I am creating kind of like flyaways up there. And that is to make sure that I just have a nice diffused line. And I'm just going to continue dropping down section by section on top of each ponytail until I get to the top of that ponytail.
What lightener are you using, Lacey?
I'm using the Flash Lift with Bonder inside. And I don't know if you guys have tried that yet or not, but if you haven't, it's a must. It's a game changer, you guys. There's 8 levels of lift, and the bonder is already inside, so it's protecting the bonds from even being broken. So you're keeping the hair's integrity while still lightening the hair. What's that lightener called again? It's called Flash Lift with Bonder. Oh, you guys, I forgot to tell you the coolest part. You don't have to adjust developing time or your developer. You don't have to increase your developer. You don't have to leave it on longer. It still does the same incredible thing, but it protects and preserves the bonds while you're doing it.
Yeah. Thank you, Lacey. So I'm going to be working on a face frame balayage. And so my model is my center girl right here. So she was like a dirty blonde. She wanted some brightness around her face. So imagine you're guests in the salon, like I asked you, that you're bored of doing the same base touch-up all the time. You want to try something different. This can be utilized on any of your blondes, redheads, brunettes, anybody who wants a little brightness around the face or a little youthfulness, who doesn't want to look more young. So what we're going to start with is a subsection around the face that is as wide as a peace sign. As wide as a what? Beautiful. So from the hairline back, no wider than the peace sign. And we're actually going to take this section diagonal back to make sure we're also as wide as a peace sign above the ear. So this is our only section. Pretty simple. Now we're going to come in and create triangles. So who currently is balayaging and utilizing triangles as their subsections? Beautiful. So the reason that we do a triangle is to have some support for that color, because balayage is meant to be on the surface of the hair, not inside. So what I'm going to do is create a diagonal back line to make a triangle around the face. Then I'm going to clip this out of the way. Now I can come in and balayage this piece to start. So traditionally, I feel like most of us will balayage and hold it in its natural fall, which is down here. This is a beautiful way to apply. The hard part though is because we have low elevation, we can't get high up. So we can't have it closer to the face to create that nice money piece. So what I'm going to do is bring it straight out from where it lives. Straight out from where? Where it lives. Beautiful. Personally, I like to use this long bristle but narrow brush. This is my personal favorite for balayage, but everybody has their brush, right? So I'm also using flash with bonder inside. So what's really important is to keep my section nice and tight from where it comes out from the head. And also my brush is very clean. So I only put color on one side of it and it's even. So I didn't stir my color with my brush, I used a whisk, and that way I have a clean brush. So I'm going to come in parallel to the hair and place it just on the surface. And I'm painting close to the scalp but not on, and gliding out. So what I want you to imagine is that you're going to bake me a cake, a delicious cake. But I don't want to know what kind of cake it is. I just want to see the icing, meaning I need good saturation for good lift. So if I'm painting my balayage and I can still see hair through it, I don't have enough saturation. I need to make sure all I see is the icing. Give me a hey, hey, if you feel what I'm saying. Beautiful. So not only am I painting these sides, or the front area, I'm also giving a little point of light to the top. So that way I can create optimum dimension. Now I need to assess my ends, pull through color there. So I'm going to lightly pinch and pull this so it will drop. And I'm going to use the back of my hand as my board, only because that way I don't have as many tools. So I'll place my lightener and slide. And then I'll catch it with my brush and slide again to make sure that my color is saturated through the ends. Then the key is to come back on top and make sure this is loaded with lightener. Again, I don't want to see any crumbs through that, any hair through that. Be perfectly saturated. Because especially with this being an open air, I want to make sure my saturation is there. If I don't have saturation, I don't get my lift. So now for my next section, I started with diagonal back. Now I'm going to come in and do a horizontal, creating a second triangle. So all we're doing is 6 triangles. How easy is that? So this next one, because we have to keep in mind this one was painted around the front. So this one I'm just going to paint the top because of where it's going to fall. That way I have dimension behind it. So I'm going to pull this straight out from where it lives. Beautiful. And I'm going to paint the top this time, keeping my brush parallel to my section. And then it's preference on what point of light we want to do. And then once I'm going to assess my ends, I'm going to pinch and drop this down just so I can saturate here. So imagine your guests in the chair currently that we talked about that we're a little bored of, because it happens. Imagine already having their base color on. Say you're doing some gray coverage, and then you can come in and add a face frame balayage and add to your ticket, add to your money, right? Mo money. Beautiful. So I'm I'm gonna continue while Lacey catches you up on what she's doing over there.
Thanks, Natalie. I feel like my mic isn't working.
Can you guys hear me now?
Maybe it just needs to be closer.
How's that? How's that?
Closer.
Let's try this. Sorry, guys. How's that? Better? Can you guys hear? Okay. You can hear in the back? Okay. So, let's say you're not a board person. You have trouble like maneuvering your comb and your brush. We've all been there. So if you're not a board person, don't worry about that. You can actually just take a single prong clip and clip the foil to the head, and then you can use the head to paint on. And that'll keep that foil in place. So let's just pretend also that I've done the other side of the front, because I would do both sides of the front, but because of time's sake today, I'm going to go ahead and move into the larger sections. So with the ponytail being on top of the head, right in the high point, that's going to create even disbursement of the color, right, on top of the head. So I'm going to continue dropping down. This is a pretty big ponytail size. So I want to make sure that I am getting enough saturation on those ends to create lightness. So just spread it out over that foil. And we're dropping everything down onto the same foil. Another thing that I like to do when I am not using a board is run my hand alongside flush with my brush for a nice, clean, even application. Because if I'm doing that, if I can see lines, could I potentially see lines in my color in my finished product? Yeah, so if I work smoother and more neatly, so just move your hand right along flush with your brush. So as I get up to the top of that ponytail, I'm going to take my Redken blur brush and blur into the top of that ponytail. So one of the things that I love about this technique is that you can really make it your own, and there's a lot of different ways that you can use it. So let's say that we have a guest who wants a more natural look, and she wants more depth and more dark on her ends. She doesn't want all of her ends blonde. I can also go in and add a low light in with this same technique. So if I wanted to add low lights or more depth in with the ends, instead of making that a separate process, just take a foil and place it on top of your lighter color, and then drop down, and then this would be your low light color. I also want to talk about the versatility too, as far as everybody has different hair types, right? So if I have a guest who has thicker hair, this is definitely what I would be doing, is separating out these ponytails. But what if they have more fine hair? If they have more fine hair, I could then just go, let's say maybe one of these pieces on the bottom, I could do traditional balayage on that and just balayage the outside of that piece to where I wouldn't have to worry about separating it. And then I would know that the center of that ponytail is dark, and that would be the depth in my ponytail. Does that make sense? Give me a what if that makes sense.
What?
Okay, good. Just make sure y'all are awake this morning.
Right? Thank
So
you,
I'm going to
Lacey.
continue working down on that. Natalie, tell us what you're doing.
So I've already completed 4 triangles. So again, I started diagonal back, and then horizontal, another diagonal back, another horizontal. So now I've created a rectangle on the top. All I have to do is make my diagonal again. I have 2 triangles. Now, just like Lacey was talking about having versatility with the look, if your guest didn't want every piece in the front to be lightened, you could leave out triangles, create more depth. So you can customize this to every guest. So of course, we've been talking about money piece, how important it is to be light in the front. Where am I pulling this out again? From where it lives. So that means this is living right up front. I'm bringing it straight up from where it lives. Then I'm going to paint the front of it so I can create that beautiful light piece right around her face that we all want. And the only way to do that is to bring my elevation up, because if I'm down here, I can't paint up here because it's laying on her head. Does that make sense? Now, if I had gray coverage going on, I would just paint next to it, like blend above it, not blend into it, but that's the versatility of the look. So imagine brunettes. They don't get enough love sometimes, right? Everyone's talking about blondes, everyone's talking about redheads, everyone talks about the brunettes. But I love a nice brunette, and it looks so youthful on someone with all dark hair to have some soft movement around her face. And that word youthful is key in our industry, right? So it's gonna help you, talk to your guests about these new looks. So if you're ever nervous to talk to them about a new look, or you think that they maybe might be nervous to try it, I guarantee you, if you promise them that they'll look more youthful, because they will with some lightness around their face, they will always trust and believe in you. And then that's an upsell for you guys. That's an add-on service to make more on your ticket. Who doesn't want to do that? So now I'm painting this out, making sure I'm fully saturating. But do you see how, because I'm pulling this, that I'm able to flatten out my surface to paint my lower ends here? So now, back of my glove, apply and slide. Make sure I'm saturated. And now this can be out in the open, or if you're more comfortable, you can put it in a foil, preference. Either way will work out great. Now we're down to our last triangle. So what we're gonna do, because this triangle was right in front, so it's right in front of her face, this one's laying on the top, I'm gonna paint the top. Now I'm gonna remember my points of light. Because this is on her right side of the head, if the sun were coming in, it would paint a diagonal back line on her hair. So that's what we're gonna do. So again, I bring this high up so I can get closer to the scalp. I'm gonna come in and paint just the top surface, creating that point of light, diagonal back. And then as I'm getting down here, I'm gonna pinch and pull this down. And as I lay them down, I'll make sure I'm laying them away from her face so she's comfortable and I don't lighten an eyebrow on accident. I think we've all kind of done that. So this look is very versatile and simple. So let's talk about the key points really quickly. What was the size of my section? The size of a peace sign, diagonal back. My first triangle was created with a what line? Diagonal back. The next one was horizontal, diagonal back, horizontal. So you're just creating about 6 triangles. Super simple. You can paint all the ends of them if you would like I did on the model, or you could leave some out for some more depth. Did you establish your key points yet?
I'll go ahead and talk about those now.
Yeah. Cool.
So the key points for this one is the sectioning and creating that depth and lightness in the front within your shape. So also things to consider is saturation on ends, how you want those ends saturated, and how you can make it your own, whether you're going to balayage it, whether you're going to add in a low light, or have all the ends be that lighter color. So next we're going to move into our second technique. And I'm going to be doing a color melt today, and the mannequin that I'm referencing for that is this one over here. She was used with the new gels lacquer, 4NN, and on her ends we have Shades EQ Gloss, 06R and 06CR. So hands up if you guys have tried the new gels lacquers. Let me see who's tried them. Okay, you guys, I am loving the new gels lacquers. If you didn't know or haven't heard, gel's got a facelift. And we have a new lower ammonia formula, and we have a new developer with it. It no longer has to be the Color Gels developer. Now we're using the Pro Oxide developer with our new color. We have the new NN series that I used on her today, so I wanted to tell you guys a little bit about that. It has double brown in it, and so if you guys are having trouble covering gray, the NNs are going to be your go-to. It's not just for gray coverage, but you get really intense saturation in superior for gray coverage, because what's gray hair missing? Pigment, right. So I want to talk about the sectioning for this. We're going to divide the head into 4 quadrants. How many? 4. And we're going to find, once we do that, we're going to find her parietal ridge. Her what?
Parietal ridge.
Parietal ridge. So the reason why that's important is because the parietal ridge is where the head bends. And that's where hair color moves and lives. That's where all the movement is. So in our color, when we are doing that, the focus is going to be up here on the top. So everything that you see ponytail there is going to all be the darker color. And you can't even see in the finished product that that's darker. So we're going to save ourselves some time there. I don't know about y'all, but I'm all about working smarter, not harder, and I like to make that money. So if I can do it quick and fast, then that's how I'm going to do it. This technique is really salonable. It's very fast, but it's effective. So I'm going to take my comb and I'm going to place it on the side of her head. Where that comb comes off is my parietal ridge. And then you can see in the back, the shape is a little bit different. So in the back, it's still 2 quadrants, but I've taken down from the parietal ridge and made that a diamond shape. So there's a diamond here and a diamond there. And that's just going to give me more dimension in my color. So we're going to start on her left side, and I'm going to place her clip down here flat, because that's the side I'm going to be standing on. So if I'm pulling hair from this side of the head, I'm going to stand on the opposite side of her body. Now today during the technique, I'm not going to be able to stand on that side so you guys can see, but when you're doing it in the salon, I want to make sure that you know to stand in front of where you're working on the opposite side from where you're pulling the hair. It's kind of key because we're using over direction to create that seamless line in our color melt. So we're using the shape of the head to create that softness. So I'm going to drop her down and get started. We're going to take a very thin section, thin enough to read newspaper print through. Can you guys see through that? Okay. So I'm going to put this down, and I'm placing my tail at the bottom of my foil, and it sounds kind of silly, but if I place it underneath here, then I know I can move it back up if I need to. So I'm going to put that down. I'm going to take my darker color and apply it to my zone 1 or my regrowth area. So today when we say zone 1, just in case you don't use that type of language, it's our regrowth or first like inch and a half area. So we're going to apply that to our zone 1. And with this, you can kind of play around and decide how far up you want the light to be around their face. So you can take it further down if you want a deeper root extension, but if you don't, then keep it lighter. Next, we're going to take our lighter color and apply it to the ends. And we want to make sure that it's fully saturated. So apply it to your ends, and if you don't have long enough foil where the ends are coming off, just gently lift those up, don't swirly. Not cute, right? So apply that color nice and evenly. And we want to come up close to, but don't touch the darker color. Then we're going to take our blur brush and blur that into our lighter color. And if you're like me and you're in the salon and things get crazy and I'm moving a lot of hair, I don't know about y'all, I keep a Sharpie in my station. And if I need to mark my foil, I'll just put a little mark on each side, and so that way I don't lose my place, because I'm going to continue working in this same section until the section is done. So this entire section is going to be brought over to this same one foil. Make sense? Cool. Natalie, what you got going on?
I'm going to be doing a Super Glow Sombre. So we have a new color that launched with Redken, and it's in our Color Fusion family called Super Glow. Super Glow is meant to show fashion colors and darker hair, so it is meant to be on levels 3 through 5. So we have a tequila sunrise, which is an orange color. We have granite, which is a pink color. We have deep sea blue, and then we have icy violet. And what's really great about these colors is they're very vibrant, so we can add them in any of our color fusion formulas, which is great, or we can use them on their own. I personally am a little bit of a rebel. How many rebels do we have? Right? So I decided for you guys to use them on blonde hair so that way we could see the vibrancy of the tones. So my models for this technique. This one I used garnet, the pink color, blended into the tequila sunrise with a hint of the garnet. And then on this girl, she's deep sea blue, blended into icy violet. So this is what we're going to be creating. But what's really cool about the sombre that I'm doing and the blur that Lacey is doing is you can do these with any of our color lines. So even though I'm using color fusion and she's doing gels and shades, you could definitely use chromatics, you could use lightener on the ends, like there's all kinds of ways of doing this. And especially talking about our guests in the chair that we're always doing a base color and we don't really do anything different. You could add these to your technique next time you see your guest. So if she was a base color, what I would have done is go ahead and touch up everything underneath my section, just like Lacey did, like all this is one color, because the veil is gonna lay over it. So my section was the corner of the eye and up, and then I came skinnier in the back and made sure I incorporated the whirl in there. So where her hair changes direction, I wanna make sure I capture that in my section. So on the back, it'll spill over the back. So this section is small, gonna be super easy. But again, I would be using super glue, but you could use any Redken color that you like. So think about those guests in the salon that you're feeling bored, right? So you can go tell them, you're like, hey, I went to this hair show on Sunday, and I learned this really cool technique, and I thought about you, can we do it? And they'll always be like, yeah, because they're excited too. Because you know what's the number one reason why our guests leave our chair? Because we never asked them if they wanted to do something different. So they feel like we're not gonna ask them, so they're gonna go somewhere else because someone else will ask them. So we wanna make sure if we're feeling bored, they definitely are. And I know we're all artists here and we're creative, so we need to keep up on that and get excited for them again. So let's just pretend that I went ahead and put color all underneath. So I'm gonna start with a really thin section here. Drop this down. So what my sombre was creating is a line that comes up and directs back. So how that's being created is I'm blurring shorter here, and then this hair as it's traveling over, similar to what Lacey's doing, that over direction is gonna create that movement for me, making it simple. How many of us use a board in the salon? By show of hands. Perfect, some of us not so sure. What's great about a board is it keeps our work clean, so it keeps it nice and smooth. What's great about the Redken board is it's multi-use. So the straight end is for foiling, the round end is if you're pulling color through, refreshing ends, you want to keep your hands clean, and then it's see-through, so if you're balayaging and you're using it to paint, you can lift it to see if you're saturated. So multi-use, pretty awesome. And every time I use it, my guests are like, what is that? That's so cool, or that's so clean. They pay attention to the things that we're doing, even if we don't think that they are. Another hot tip before I get into this, we have our new Frizz Dismiss line that has relaunched, and in it is an oil static mist. Who's tried this yet? The oil mist. It's beautiful for all hair textures, but I love it to use in my color application because sometimes when I'm painting hair, especially balayaging, or pulling my section up, and the hair is all frazzled everywhere, or it's staticky and you're trying to keep it smooth, just a spray of this will smooth it down and it will not affect your color application. So that way it'll be nice and smooth for you to apply. So first, I'm gonna take my board, place the foil on the straight end, come under here, place my hand down, that way I have it secured. I'm gonna come in with my darker color, zone 1 or the base. And then I'm gonna blend down to about, I'm gonna say about eye nose level for her. And then this is preference, so you can make this line as long as you want. Just know that it's gonna get longer as it goes to the back. Then I'm gonna come in with my lighter color. I wanna leave a separation here, of the two colors because I'm going to blend them together. Apply my color. I can just take these ends and gently wrap them up. So now that I have that separation there, I'm going to come in with my edging brush. This is Redken's edging brush. It's nice and soft to give a good blend. We are selling them at the booth. So all I'm going to do is come in and just blur these together. That's all I have to do. And then drop that down. Now I can leave this foil under here if I would like, or I can just use my hand at that point because now I have some surface to work with. So I don't have to add any more foil. I'm just going to drop my section right on top of my current foil. Make sure my sections are nice and thin so my saturation is good. And because I'm not placing foils in between, I can see where my blend is. So now I'm going to come on top again, my zone 1 or base color, my darker color, paint it on there right to where my blur is going to be. Take my lighter color, leave a little separation so we can blend. Bring this up. Then I'm going to take my edging brush and blur these together. And it almost creates like a nice blend, maybe in a second color. Another option is going vertically to blend, but this is just nice and soft, so it's very easy to blend colors. You can blend it with your Shades EQ, like she's using her blur brush, so all the color lines will be beautiful for this technique. So how's it going over there, Lacey?
It's going good. Thanks, Natalie. So I am almost to the bottom of my first section, and I want to show you guys. Oh, okay. There's a little trick to when you need to switch sides. So we're almost there. Having a little issue here with my mic again.
No worries.
Okay. So we're going to take our blur brush, and we're still blurring our darker color into our zone 2. And with this technique too, you guys, it's all... You guys awake now? I did that on purpose, promise. Teasing. Okay, so... Maybe I'll step away from you.
Get away.
Okay. So... How's that? How's that? How's that? How's that? Better? Okay, good. So you can use this technique with more colors than just the shades and the gels. So when you're doing this, if you look over at the mannequins over there, you can see that the one on the far right is City Beats. And so that one is East Village Violet and Valley City Pink. So you can create
any of...
yeah, you can create a lot of different looks. I'm just gonna like take it off. Can you guys hear me if I take it off? Yes. Yeah. Can you hear me in the back? Okay, good. So you can create a lot of different looks by using the same technique but different colors. So if I wanted to use Shades EQ Gloss for her dark color on her root and I wanted lighter ends, I can use decolorizer on the ends for this technique and use my Shades EQ Gloss on her scalp area for that dark color. So I'm going to continue working here, down. So you guys can get this way, you can get it to look a lot of different ways. And I'm just going to get to where I can show you guys this part and then we'll fix the mic. So now we're in the last section. So this, remember, this is all our dark color. Everything that's going into the ponytail is our dark color. So I'm going to apply that to where I made the line on my Sharpie and my foil. I'm going to come down, finish that. Run my hand flush with my brush. And then I'm going to blur those lines together. So here's the tricky part, and I want you guys to hear it, so if you can't hear, get to where you can. You're going to place a foil over top of it. And put your tail right on the part. And you're going to come up and gently pull, but don't slide. Because there's going to be a lot of hair in here and it gets thick and there could be like a little bump. Thanks. Thanks, Kara. Everybody give it up for Kara. Woohoo! My hero. Thank you. I don't know if you need to turn the lamp off. So you're going to gently pull that down, but don't slide it out. And then just give it a little tug without a slide. And then you're going to go over to your other side, put a new foil on top of it, and then continue working in the same direction. If you're with me, say yes. Yes. Okay, good. Natalie, how's it going over there?
It's going beautiful. So as I'm working, still find enough sections to where I can have good saturation. Applying my dark. Now, as I'm working, I can see where my blend was, so I make sure I stay right there. But what's happening is the hair from the back is traveling farther to the blend line, creating a nice diagonal back direction, and whenever I'm done with the style. So I'm going to come in with my light color through the bottom. Then I can come in between, and you can wipe your edging brush as you work. Keep it nice and clean, blur your line. But this is a super simple technique and fast, and a nice add-on for your guests to try something different, especially now that fall is supposed to be happening. I mean, it doesn't feel like it. It's definitely cooler than Texas, I will say. So it was nice to come here and feel 70 degrees. But our guests are asking for darker colors or richer colors, more fall, things like that, which is beautiful. So you can definitely utilize these on the guests that you have that maybe are nervous to try something new. What I like to say to kind of start that conversation sometimes, especially with the guests that we've had in our chair for like 15 years and we don't really know how to say something to, get them excited about something new, is I ask them, are we maintaining today or do we want to switch it up? And then they're like, I didn't know I could switch it up. I didn't know that was an option. And then you can talk to them about the trends that are happening and things that you're seeing and what would look good on them. And I promise you guys, they already trust you enough. So when you ask them to do something else, they'll almost always go for it. Because I guarantee you guys, being all across the US and the world, we all have the same clients. They all ask for the same things. They all say the same things that we kind of joke about, but it's true, They come to us because we, make them look beautiful, but they all ask for the same thing, or they all have the same problems. So we need to come with solutions. But we all get bored, for sure. I like to always try something new. So still working up, finish section, bring this over. Now, obviously we're working slow, just so you guys can get a visual, but imagine how fast this would go in the salon. This would only take a few more minutes on your color application time. So if she's someone that comes in and gets a base touch-up, you have her down for 30 minutes, you could definitely touch up her base and get this done in still 30, 45 minutes. And then you charge, an add-on service for them for adding on a technique. It's also important to charge what you're worth, no matter where you live, right? Because you guys are worth a lot. Did you know, I know she said it this morning, or she may have said it this morning about being in the top 20%. Have you ever heard of that before? The 20-80 rule. So it's a proven fact that 80% of hairstylists never take one more class once they get their license. 80%. So we want to be the top 20 because the top 20 is making 80% of the income. So if I'm learning something new, in Redken we truly believe that if you learn better, you're going to earn better and you're going to live your best life. Raise your hand if you want to live your best life, right? So we want to make sure we're talking to our guests about coming to these kinds of things because we want to earn our right for our guests and say, hey, I'm an educated hairstylist. This is what I learned. And there's no age to that. Like, I've been in the industry my whole life. I grew up in the salon. I don't know anything else. But at the same time, I still want to learn and try new things. And my guests get so excited. Like, they all knew I was coming here this weekend. So they're going to be like, what'd you see? What happened? Like, tell me about it. You know, they get all excited. They see me on Facebook doing all these things. And it's important that you guys check in today to show them, hey, I was bettering myself this weekend for you, right? So they love to hear that kind of stuff because it's important. I feel like most of us that are here, probably 100% of us, love what we do. We wouldn't be here. So we love what we do because our guests are happy. So if you talk to them about switching things up, they'll love you forever. Beautiful. So our sectioning here is outer corner of each eye and teardrop to the back, incorporating the whirl of the heads. That way it'll spill over beautifully. And then we have thin sections, our darker color at our base or zone 1, blending down. And then you can see your blend area as you're working. Super easy. Now I know you're gonna ask, does this process like laying in her face, right? She would be a little uncomfortable, don't you think? So I'll show you how I wrap this up so that way she can, you know, get on her phone while she's processing. That's what they like to do, right? Make sure you have her check into your salon so she can tell all her friends. I'm okay if you're on your phone while you're in my chair, but I hope you check in and tell everybody about me. That's what I say. Take a selfie while you're sitting in my chair. So I have that nice and blended. Now, if I were to do the whole top, we would say time-wise, I may not be able to, but what I'm gonna do, take another foil, place it on top, the entire section. Then I'm gonna roll this. Keep rolling, keep rolling. There she is. So then all I have to do is take my clip and clip that out of her way. And that way it's enclosed in the foil. It's not gonna be messy in her face. She can still check in on Facebook while she's in your chair, right? She's ready to process. So how's it going over there, Miss Lacey?
It's going awesome. It's kind of going awesome. Kind of, right? So, thanks. Kind of hard to work and hold the microphone at the same time, so thank you, Kara.
Thanks, Kara.
So I'm still blurring. I'm almost to the bottom of this section, so I'm still continuing to work through onto the same foil. So for each quadrant, all the hair is going to be coming onto one foil. So we should have 2 foils by the time you're done in each quadrant. So hands up if you guys are so over the 200 head of foils. You guys over it too? Good. This technique is 8 foils. I'm gonna say that again. It's 8 foils. Mo money, y'all. Mo money. Okay? This whole thing in the salon does not take very long at all. It's super easy. Some key points that you want to think about is we have to drag darker color into light. It doesn't work if we drag lighter color into dark. If you're with me, say yes.
Yes.
Yeah, so if I do that, then I will have a line. I'll have a what?
Line.
I'll have a line, yeah. So that gap in between the darker color and the lighter color, you guys, really, really important. Also, some things to keep in mind are saturation, but also don't oversaturate at the base, at your zone 1. So if you do that, here's what's gonna happen. You're gonna have puddling around her hairline. And we don't want that because that's not cute, right? Puddling, not cute. So we're gonna go, just watch your saturation. We're using over direction to create that soft movement within the shape. So, thanks. We're gonna just continue working down. Hands up if you guys are currently doing melting in your salon. You guys doing a lot of color melting? Cool. Hands up if you've learned something so far. Awesome.
High five your neighbor and say, we're awesome. Nice.
Okay, Natalie, what's up over there?
So I just showed them how it would end it, is how, how I would roll it up. I'm trying to finish here. I may not get to, but I want to make sure I showed you guys that. So I know we were talking about, feeling bored or feeling like unmotivated as a stylist who feels like that sometimes. That's why you're here today. Beautiful. How many of you have heard of the Redken Exchange by a show of hands? Who wants to go to the Redken Exchange? Beautiful. The Redken Exchange is our headquarters on 5th Avenue, 404 in New York City. So that's our headquarters where any hairdresser can go and learn, and you can learn from all different hairdressers across the world. So you can learn anything from color, design, finishing. We even have social media and business classes, everything like that to help you learn better so you can earn better and live a better life. So I highly recommend going. And plus, who doesn't want to go to New York City? Talk about motivation. We also have our Redken Symposium. Who's heard of Redken Symposium? A couple of y'all are like, yeah, I know about Las Vegas. All right, the Redken Symposium is every 2 years in Las Vegas. 10,000 hairdressers gather to get educated and party, let's be honest. Okay, so we're having it January 2021 at Mandalay Bay. So I hope to see all of you there for that one. So did you have any last key points, Lacey, for your technique before I finish out?
So key points are over direction, drag the dark into the light, and when you flip that foil over to the other side, pull, but don't slide. Pull, but don't slide. I want you to say it with me. Pull, but don't slide. And that's it.
Beautiful. Thank you, Lacey. All right, so I'm gonna blend this one, last one, and we'll wrap it up here. So we would love for you guys to visit us in our booth today. We're here till 7. Lacey and I will be revisiting these techniques if you want to see them closer and see our other mannequins and formulations closer if you have any questions for that. Lacey and I are also going to be doing some finishing and braiding techniques at our booth all day. So hopefully you come see us over there, and we have lots of amazing deals. We have our edging brushes. You can order your color kits, any color lines. So we have Shades of Q, Color Fusion, Chromatics, color gels. You get 20% off. Who doesn't love a color deal, right? So, did we have a win? Did we have a win?
Yeah.
What do we do when we win?
We celebrate.
We celebrate. We're all about celebrating here at Redken, and we're all about motivating you guys and keeping it amazing and fun, just like we made y'all clap and dance earlier, and y'all are like, what's going on? All right, so we're gonna celebrate. So what's gonna be our word, Lacey?
Color melting.
Color melting. Okay, everybody put your hand up high like this in a fist. And on the count of 3, we're gonna pull it down, and we're gonna yell color melting. We want all of Fort Smith to hear us, okay, ready? 1, 2, 3, color melting! Thank you guys so much.
Thank
We'll
you
see y'all
guys.
later.